Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to do kind of an accidental recipe. We'll start making it and I'll tell you the story of how this came about. 15 years ago in this kitchen studio. Got a can of chickpeas. I'm going to pour those into this bowl. About 15 years ago. The kitchen was brown at that point. All the cupboards were brown. And I was doing a lot of work in this kitchen for other clients. So I had a bunch of food clients, food manufacturers, kitchen equipment, and this particular time was for a grocery store chain. Salt, pepper, paprika, red onion. So at this particular time, I was doing a job for a grocery store chain, did a regular monthly gig for them. They had a magazine that they gave away at the grocery store, and then we would do, on a monthly basis, a bunch of recipes from that magazine. Oil of your choice. Do a bunch of recipes from that magazine, and they would put them on their YouTube channel and their website. As per usual, client comes in and they sit over there in the corner and they watch the monitors and critique what's going on. Their chef, their corporate in-house chef that develops the recipes, was standing here doing what I'm doing now, presenting. And about an hour before lunch, one of the members of the of the marketing crew from the client announces that, what is she gonna have for lunch? She's vegan. Well, we hadn't planned on a vegan lunch because we usually eat what we cook in this studio. So I would plan the day for the chef to, cook stuff that we could eat for lunch. Now I've got this, I've got a baking tray, I've got some parchment paper on it. Try to keep it on the parchment paper. Just keeps everything from making a mess. Nice layer. Get it all out and into a preheated 350-degree oven for about a half hour or so. Anyway, so of course, nothing that we were preparing that day was anywhere close to being vegan or vegetarian. And it was, it's kind of a lousy thing to do. I don't mind if you're vegan or vegetarian, but if you want me to provide you with a special meal on the shoot day, you should probably tell me day in advance. I mean, we had been meeting for about 3 weeks at that point, going through what we were going to shoot, how we were going to shoot it, and setting everything up. This was their first time, so, I'll give them a break. This was their first time in the studio. They probably didn't know what was happening. My first time working for them. The chef, who was back here behind the counter, kind of winked at me and said, "Can you get me some basmati rice and some chickpeas? I'm going to blow them out of the water." Little did I know that this chef had been pitching this recipe to that marketing group for ages, and they wouldn't go for it because they said, no one wants to eat that. Anyway, so I've got a pan here. I've got a tight-fitting lid for this pan because this is the rice portion. I've got some chili oil, so I'm going to put that in, and we'll let that heat up. You don't have chili oil, you don't like chili oil, don't sweat it. Just use whatever oil you used with the chickpeas, or just use half and half, supplement it a little bit. Sometimes I find that it can be a little bit too strong for me. It's not that I don't like heat, it's not that I don't like chili, it's one note. Kind of, smacks you in the face, it's just one note, and I don't like that. So I will often cut it myself. Anyway, so the chef makes up this dish and serves it for lunch. Came together really quickly. The crew that works for me, the people behind the scenes that I used to hire then, it's just me now, they ate it up. It was the one recipe that day that they all sat down at the end and wrote it out so that they could make it at home. And the chef, said I keep pitching it to them and they don't like it. They say that nobody wants it, and yet it was completely gone. It was the only thing that we cooked that day that the crew ate completely until it was gone. And it's something that I make every once in a while. Since then, don't know the origin of this. I'm imagining that it has some sort of Indian origin, Indian-ish origin. It's probably a complete bastardization of a real recipe, but it works. So the oil's heating up. I'm not going to get it too hot. In goes some cumin and some coriander seed. I'll just stir that around. You just want to bloom them. I always err on the side of caution because I don't like to get them burnt because that makes it bitter. So I'm pretty careful with how much I cook it. And then in with some red onion. And I'm going to fry that until it starts to get a little bit brown. Clove or two of garlic crushed and put in would be really great in this. I do that sometimes, and sometimes I leave it out. It's one of those things where you kind of think, did it really add anything? And it probably does add something, but on most days, would I really miss it? No. And so I've got a lot going on in the studio. I have to change the soundproofing. It's been almost 20 years since I soundproofed this room or deadened the sound in this room. And I had to take it down because it starts to deteriorate. So 20 years is about the amount of time for what I had used. And I'm going to replace it with like a compressed fiberglass panel that should give me a very dry room again. Anyway, you don't need to know that. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to put in salt, paprika and cayenne, some curry powder, whatever kind you like. Even if you make some yourself, that would be great. A little bit of chopped green chili, as much or as little as you like. And we'll just stir that around. You can smell the spices, just amazing. And a chopped up tomato. Tomatoes all cut up, and as soon as you kind of put it into the heat, it starts to deteriorate. I'm using a fresh tomato. It's March. Sorry, it's March in Canada. This is a hothouse tomato. They come from Niagara. They're not as good as a field tomato. Not nearly as good as a field tomato. Marginally better than a tomato that comes from Mexico at this time of year, though, in terms of flavor, taste, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's broken down. Now, I've got basmati rice. I have rinsed the basmati several times, and then I let it soak as well for a little while for this particular preparation. And I just toss it around in here with the spices and the tomato and the oil, and just kind of cook it, fry it a little bit before I add in the liquid. And so for the liquid, if you're making this and you want to stay veg or vegan, use water or vegetable stock. I'm going to use chicken stock because I don't need to be veg or vegan. So in that goes. And it's the kind of thing where, water works just fine. If what you have is tap water and you don't have any of the other things, water will be just fine. So I'm going to bring this to just a slight simmer. And once that comes up to a bit of a simmer, I'm going to turn the heat down medium-low and put the lid on. And so I'm going to let this cook 10, 12 minutes, something like that. Then I'll turn the heat off and I'll just leave it lid on for about another 15. By the time that's done, the chickpeas should be ready to go. Okay, so these look fantastic and they smell amazing. The rice should be done and ready to go. Just run that through with a fork. There we go. Looking good. Now, we'll get the chickpeas in here. Okay, so I'm just going to put the lid back on this, keep it warm, another 15 or 20 minutes before Julie gets home from work, and then we'll serve it up and give it a try.
Hey Glenn, hey friends.
Hey Jules.
That looks pretty good. What do you got in there? Some chickpeas I see, some onions.
Chickpeas, onions, a little bit of tomato, rice, curry powder, other flavoring stuff.
Smells good.
Cumin.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a nice mix of flavors. Might have needed a spoon though. I'm making a mess.
Maybe a spoon. Some chicken would go really nicely with this.
I like it
Some
with the
lamb
beans.
would go really nice with this.
Yeah.
But it is pretty much all there. This is lunch for the next few days.
That's pretty good. You could add, of course, you can always add more peas. That's really good. I like that.
Thanks
There you
for
go.
stopping by.
See you again soon.